The world is arriving on America's shores to play soccer. A new soccer stadium opened in the United States this week, and we talk MLS Net Pro versus USL and Promotion Relegation with Simon Evans. That and more on Friday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kickaround, the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. How's it going? Hope you're well. My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, on the other side of this digital split screen, Mr. Jason Davis.
Is that what it's called? A digital split screen? Is that
Sure.
Technology is
Trademark
amazing. Yeah. All kinds of stuff happening here at Morning Kickaround today. A busy Friday. We are less than a week away from the World Cup, Rob. Do you feel it? You feel the World Cup excitement coursing through your veins as an Englishman, as an American?
I can't help but keep smiling to myself, thinking of the Brazilian plane being baptized on the tarmac upon their departure.
It's not a baptism. It's a blessing. You use holy water
Sure.
for blessings, not for You do use holy water for baptisms, but they didn't baptize the plane. You can't be
That plane made a commitment to God.
Let me explain Catholicism to you here, Rob, on the show. That's why we're here on Morning Kickaround, to talk about Catholicism, right?
All right, so the Brazilian plane being blessed made me feel good. Like it's on. The hysteria is coming in, and seeing all the local news reports from all across the country, like Qatar's in our town, or Spain's in your town, or Croatia's 20 minutes down the street from your house now. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
Pretty cool that stuff is happening. Yes, there's some not so comfortable great things about this World Cup, and we've been talking about them and writing about them and all those things. But yes, there is a buzz. There is a buzz that is coming, I think, and I'm gonna be consuming so much of it, and hopefully we are making good stuff around the tournament and still covering American soccer the way that people want us to here on Morning Kickaround.
Yeah, a lot of the
shout out to all the ultras, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually got quite a bit of things saying that Wednesday's show was domestic heavy, and I think we're going to be quite a bit domestic heavy for a lot of the show today. Excited for our guest Simon Evans. We're going to dig into the latest chapter of the Soccer Warz with him, with the private equity battle we got going on for the expansion of soccer across the United States. That's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern for those watching live, but we're going to talk to the members, maybe go back over through the correspondence draft we had on Wednesday and sharpen up what we're asking of our correspondents. And then why don't you give shout outs to our MK Ultras that are in the house here?
I'm putting everybody's good morning messages. I love this. It's almost like we're all coming to work and, it's been, hey, how was your Thursday night? Shout out to everybody, Matt and Tim and Armando and John and Bloody Bob and Christian and Chris and Ryan, our guy in Fort Wayne. This is a new one because I believe picked up a gift from Mr. Bob, who dropped 5 more Morning Kickaround gift memberships. Thank you to Hit Him With a Clothesline. That's a great name. Jeff is our early bird. Jeff is the first one here every day. Be more like Jeff. Jeff is on time, punctual, not even punctual, because I grew up in a military family, and if you are not early, you are late. Okay? Somebody tell my wife, please.
So ordinarily for new members on Fridays, we dot the map of our MK Ultras, and we put your location. You drop your coordinates or the city that you want to represent into the chat or into the Discord server. But those new ones, those new members that just accepted those gifts, get your locations in here, or if you're really quick about logging into Discord, put it in the dot the map thread there, and that's a good way for us to end the week and lead into our member bonus. But what do we got on the show today? I already mentioned it. Simon Evans, World Cup talk, and a new American stadium opened this week. So let's get into that. Friday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Let's rock and roll. Today's first story is a World Cup story. So I'll let you guys know that Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of bleeding purple on the soccer fields of Southeast Michigan in 2026. Ranked at 12th in the country at the USL 2 level. Did you know that, Jason?
I didn't know there were rankings, the
Yeah.
USL 2 level. Now
There's
I know.
158 teams or so, and they are ranked number 12, undefeated, 4-0 for the first time. Tickets are available on the Oakland County website. And then the creative team has been doing some amazing social media content on the Instagram and all the other platforms. So check that out, Oakland County FC. Thank you for partnering with us for our World Cup coverage. So we said it at the top of the show, the world is arriving for the biggest soccer tournament of all time. And there's been some mixed news, but do you have a little bit of that World Cup buzz? I felt real after seeing the first warm-up game and then seeing the blessing of the Brazil bus and all the local news stories talking about the teams rolling in. Are you feeling the excitement in your gut?
Yeah, a little bit. Last night did an episode of the Best Soccer Show, which is my original podcast. Well, the podcast that I do now, that's the oldest. I guess I'll say it that way.
Original adjacent.
Jonathan Tannenwald joined me from Chicago, where he was obviously getting ready to cover the United States tomorrow night against Germany at Soldier Field, which I think is going to be an incredible atmosphere. We didn't kind of get into the weeds on tactics and personnel because I don't think we know what Mauricio Pochettino intends to do. I think he's a mystery, right? That guy is tough to figure out. And, I think there are a couple of things we're going to be looking for. Who he picks a goalkeeper, because he played Matt Turner and Chris Brady against Senegal when we thought that Matt Freese was the number one. So will Matt Freese start against the Germans? And then will we see any of Chris Richards? I don't think we will, because he hasn't trained fully with the squad this week, based on my understanding. They're not going to be training match day -1. So what does it look like for Chris Richards' involvement? He's obviously going to help stabilize the back line. Will there be any breadcrumbs dropped by Pochettino on what the starting lineup might be against Paraguay a week from today with what he picks against Germany? That for the U.S. men's national team, that's where we're at. And I would say that all I ask, right? I'm reading everybody else's analysis, and I'm seeing all the pieces out there, and the trying to kind of get our heads around what this is going to be. And I see the calls for Pochettino to play the best possible lineup, his 11 to start the game, at least to give us a clear sign. And I don't know, and I'm not sure I'm asking for that. I'm asking for no one to get hurt. That's number one. Nobody get hurt.
Times a million there.
This is basically like when you send your kids off, I don't know, to play anywhere. Like, I'm going to go, Mom and Dad, I'm going to the playground. Okay, don't get hurt. Now, obviously, the kid doesn't pay attention to you. That doesn't change the kid's behavior whatsoever.
That's okay, Mom. Okay, Dad, just to get out the house.
It's something you feel like you have to say, but in no way does it stop them from getting hurt.
Well, just like drive safe. I was actually going to choose to drive recklessly, but thank you for reminding me.
I was going to drive like an idiot. Yes, absolutely. So I don't expect but I think obviously these are professional soccer players. And I do think there will be a sense of this is going to be, we're going to be in third gear here, right? At the most, this is going to be third gear. That being said, wouldn't it be nice to have something on the board to point to and say, all right, I'm feeling good about this. Today, right? So one of the other things that happens, Robin, and I'm sure if you are a news hound like I am, you are coming across the
it's hard to be a news hound these days.
It's hard. Well, depends on how much doom scrolling you want to do, I guess. The non-soccer media is getting in on the writing about the World Cup thing or covering the World Cup. Like just this morning, after I walked my kid to preschool, after Tiago and I walked to preschool, I pull up, I'm looking for a podcast. I'm a podcast guy. I'm looking for a podcast, and I come across one that I've subscribed to a long time ago from LAist out in LA. It's usually very localized stories, but I like it. And they have an episode today on the issues around the World Cup in Los Angeles. So it's ticket prices is number one, but it gets into ice and all these other things. So that's an example of non-soccer media covering soccer. Now they're approaching big topics, And that's usually what you're going to see. And I saw maybe the Atlantic had a story today, a piece today, opinion on why isn't the World Cup more fun? Why aren't we getting excited? And obviously there is a black cloud that hangs over this, Rob.
I was going to say, well, what takes away fun more than rules and outside of the ice and all that stuff? FIFA released a 35-page of behavior guidelines for fans. And I mean, that doesn't get you excited. And that's an example of like how overly regulated, but yet almost like kamikaze style with charging people for things. So it's like, you're going to charge me an arm and a leg, but then like police me heavily at the same time. And that that's not a formula for fun in any way there at all. And then outside of the fun element, FIFA might be shaking hands with danger with the no reusable bottle rule, which has definitely hit the non-soccer media because I mean, that's dangerous. Right. We're playing in Miami and Texas and California. Obviously there's some indoor areas in there, but just those locations alone, and Mexico as well. I don't know if that rule is actually covered into Mexico, but I do know that Miami not being able to bring your own water bottle is criminal, and FIFA doesn't mention how much they're going to be charging for water bottles. So is it going to be $20 a water? And who knows how long those lines are if no one has their own water supply? That's dangerous beyond the fun killing. That's not safe.
I want to come back to that. So the reason I brought up the Atlantic piece, which is the World Cup of UGG, is the title, and I don't subscribe to the Atlantic, so I can't read the whole story. But in here, as in the laundry list of reasons as to why we are not excited about this World Cup the way we should be,
laundry list. Oh boy.
That's what you call a long list of things, right? A long
list? Yeah. Oh boy. Here we go. Sorry.
Okay. So you stopped me. Ticket prices are astronomical. Demand for them has slumped. Hotels are half booked. There is little buzz. New York City area, which will be home to the World Cup final next month, is far more focused on the Knicks, which I kind of get. There is anxiety about fans traveling from the Democratic Republic of the Congo in light of the Ebola outbreak there. Some international visitors are barred by travel bans, and others are nervous about making the trip. And I just saw some Scottish fans, or maybe an Irish fan, lost their visa status, like the temporary visa. It's not actually a visa, called ETSA. They were given approval. They made their plans. They were booked to come. And then they got an email that said, actually, no, your application's under review and you can't travel. So that's happening right now. So the State Department is fumbling the bag and screwing this up. And I don't like, they say, oh, we review criminal histories and things like that. Why give somebody approval and then take it back is the problem, because they make plans. And that's the issue. Anyway, it says, hopes for a strong showing from the U.S. team have mostly faded.
Oh.
That is in this Atlantic piece by Jonathan Lemire, that says the World Cup of UGG. And I understand he's making a list. He's trying to drive home the point that we're not excited about this World Cup. And that's just a small part of his piece, which is mostly focused on political issues and other things beyond the game. But is that true? The hopes for a strong showing have mostly faded? Is that true?
Yeah, I'd say so to a degree. So if I reverse my timeline 5 to 6 years, I think myself and many others that have a keen interest in the United States men's national team, the core was young and promising, and a 22 World Cup almost seemed like a trial run, like because the core was so young, the expectations for me was low. Like, want to see something promising, but like 2026 is the year these guys will be matured, and this should be our legitimate run. And it doesn't seem like anything that's happened in the last in the year that doesn't encourage. I think people thought there was going to be a buildup, like the team was going to be better, and building up to this, but it's been pretty incoherent. And you're talking about Pochettino and breadcrumbs. I don't know if you can read into anything that he does as far as selections or ideas or plans.
I think that's an overstatement to say that the hopes for a strong showing have faded. I think that's overstated. I don't think that anybody realistically should have expected us to go from making a knockout game and losing to the Dutch in 2022 to, oh, we're going to be okay, whatever. Maybe I'm building a straw man here. I guess there's a possibility that hopes for a strong showing have faded.
So I'll put it back on you. Are your hopes elevated now than they were a year or two ago?
I think there is every reason to believe that this team can put together something that gets them at least into a position to win a quarterfinal game. Absolutely. I do think that that's very possible with this group. I was actually gaming out possible finishes and things. And if they win the group, they probably get Belgium in around the 16 game, which is tough. But you're going to have to beat somebody like that. I don't think I would have them favorites or anything. But again, like I guess I don't know. I guess I believe it's maybe unfair to put on them, hey, you were supposed to be this, you were supposed to be that, when we've never been that, right? We've never been like, did South Korea go into 2002 thinking, we're going to make the semifinal? Watch us. No, it happened. Did Morocco expect to be in the semifinal in Qatar in 2022? Were there hopes for a strong I mean, they may have thought like, hey, we're going to get out of the group and then roll the dice from there. But unless you're one of the 5 or 6 best soccer playing countries on the planet, I don't think anybody goes into a tournament thinking, yeah, we got this.
That's the only teams really doing that are like Spain, France, Germany, and maybe England, Brazil, and Argentina. So there's half a dozen, and then some of those are more realistic than others as well. But that's why you play, because you want to see it play out and you get surprises and whatnot. But I guess that I think people were maybe expecting something more resounding or clear cut. But at the same, I'll concede that as soon as the tournament for real starts, hopefully that switch flips and we go to fan style unabashed positivity and hopefulness. But
I don't know,
you can't say that. Well, but at the same time, okay, if we really want to backtrack, maybe people's hope for the team here was also diminished about because it seemed like there was a couple. I think Copa America is probably where the hopes diminished, because a lot of people were hopeful for that there would be growth from World Cup to Copa America.
Sure. And that was 2 years ago. We fired our coach. And I understand. Okay.
I think that was
I don't want to
probably
belabor the point. I don't want to belabor the point. It's interesting to me that element is now being thrown into the pot of this is why the World Cup is bad. And I again, we don't know. We just watched them play relatively well against Senegal, again, in a friendly where 10 players were changed at halftime. So again, I guess it's the fact that people are jumping to a lot of conclusions without really being able to back it up with evidence, right? The United States is not getting grouped. That is not happening. They're not going out at the group stage. There is zero chance that they're going out in the group stage. I mean, I know I'm saying that like I'm on the other side of this coin. They're not going to go out in the group stage. After that, yes, it's going to be tough, and there's a question. But man, I think people being negative about this before we even begin the tournament is such a bummer. And I'm not saying you should think they're going to win the World Cup or that they're even going to make a semifinal. You can leave it open, but to say things like, man, we're going to get grouped. Go watch something else.
But honestly, what's kind of softens that too is maybe in the past, in the format of the past, I might maybe have thought that. I don't believe that. I think we'll make at least win one knockout round game, but it's because a lot of teams qualify from the group now. It's not the same bar to get out of the group that it once was.
This is the issue.
I think they'll go through the top 2 or 3 teams go through each group.
The 3 teams can go through. That's why they're not getting grouped. Okay, one reason for me to be very comfortable saying they're not getting grouped, right? Also because I do think that they're going to play better than I guess people expect. I don't know. The other thing is that this is not a bad team. It is simply not a team that measures up to what we want it to be, right? This is an issue we have as American soccer fans, is that because we're American and it's sort of baked into our sporting experience that we're really good at everything, because we always have been, right? Because we dominate in other sports, again, sports we created. This one we did not. But because that is there's an embarrassment. We are the internally embarrassed soccer fan when we're American, especially when we communicate with people from other places where their teams have achieved much more than ours, right? The fact that the English are an ever-present element of American soccer culture, and Rob, obviously, we needed the English, and we need you, and we need, but the fact that the English are ever present in our experience as soccer fans means we will always feel a little embarrassed about the level of our culture, right? When I posted my rant from Monday about the content creator saying be less American and how you talk about the game, my comments on Instagram filled up with people like, what culture? We have a terrible culture. This is why we stink. And it's like, stop that, because we'll never get to where you want us to go if you denigrate what we have, if you measure it against England, which, by the way, again, there should not be a measurement of what is legitimate and not. Every country makes their own culture. The issue of whether or not we're going to be a World Cup champion doesn't come down to the words we use, right? So I don't know. Again, this issue of like we have to talk ourselves down because we feel embarrassed, and it's a way to separate ourselves from the pain of maybe not achieving much, right? Because we don't want to live the long timeline that might take to get to that level. We don't want to accept the fact we may never get to that level.
That's a harsh reality.
A guy I know, Bo Durr, wrote a book called "The United States Will Never Win the World Cup." Like he wrote an entire book based on the idea we'll never win a World Cup, and there's a very good chance we don't. I may never live to see the U.S. win a World Cup, the national team win a World Cup on the men's side. I may never see it, but it doesn't mean I have to think my team is doesn't mean I have to like jump to these very bleak conclusions in order to again protect myself from the fact that my team isn't as good as England's or something, or anybody's, Spain, France, all these other nations, right? Because again, it's this weird juxtaposition of our economic power and the way that that America is now becoming the sort of the center of the soccer world, even as our national team has failed to do the thing we desperately wanted to do, which is join that elite group of national teams that have at least been to the Final Four of the World Cup, for example.
So to kind of round out this topic, there is a laundry list of UGG being presented about why we're not excited for the World Cup. And there's a 35-page list of rules for fans. So that maybe not the equation for fun, but hopefully we can still take some joy out of the thing we love. Because this, at the end of the day, World Cup is the pinnacle of the sport that we all engage with at a high level. So let's try to embrace as much of the game as we can as the World Cup approaches in less than a week. How about that? And we'll talk to our ultras at the end of the show, kind of talk about the correspondence, responsibilities, and what that all means for the World Cup. But we're talking about a new American Stadium opening up. Next up here on Morning Kickaround. A brand new soccer stadium in the United States of America held its first home game with a win to boot in Malden, South Carolina, home of the Greenville Triumph. The GE Verona Park is the new place to go see soccer at a professional level in a soccer-specific stadium.
Yeah, we cobbled together some images from the big night. I don't have a picture of it, but apparently Mario Kempes was on hand with a replica of the World Cup trophy for some reason. I mean, I know he won a World Cup trophy with Argentina in '78. It was just odd to see Mario Kempes. Now, Rob was immediately like, oh, well, Ronaldinho's involved, so it's not that strange that Mario Kempes would be involved. I guess you're right, Rob. Who knew?
They're scrolling through names of people that they can hop on board.
So this image, I think, was posted to the actual Instagram account for GE Verona Park. What is it called? What's it called?
It is GE Verona Park.
Okay. So, we've got, you can see in the background, this is Bridgeway Station in Malden, South Carolina, just outside of Greenville. You can see in the background Bridgeway Station across the parking lot. I actually parked in that parking lot once when I had lunch with my mom in Bridgeway Station a couple of years ago, or for Thanksgiving last year, I think. So
was it Renaissance themed?
It's Renaissance themed. Everything is Renaissance themed. Now we've seen the renderings, and I'll get to some of those here in a second. Actually, let me. Yeah. So we have this. These are both renderings, right? The one on the left is less offensive. Vernova, not Verona, Vernova Park. It's right there. GE Vernova Park, not Verona. Anyway, that one on the right is one of the renderings we critiqued when they dropped. That is clearly an AI assisted rendering. And as far as we can tell, Rob, the stadium doesn't look like that yet, right? It doesn't have those elements yet.
Not quite, but I was surprised to see quite a few local news stories and whatnot, and they didn't show it like in full that much. It was a lot of like around the edge shots like that. But Greenville Triumph victorious on a Wednesday night. Interesting that the opening night was a midweek game as well, but it definitely a different take on Stadia. You said that it's a nice start. Is that what you said before the game?
Look, I think so. So for a team like let's put Greenville Triumph in context, right? They've been relatively successful in USL League One. They've been trying to create a culture in that town. I'm sure there's a minor league baseball in Greenville. I don't know, otherwise know. I know there's some colleges there. They played at a college venue before they built this place. This is not top of the line stadium building, right? This is not what we're going to see in Sacramento or in Detroit in terms of lower division buildings that are pushing the envelope of what we can do in American soccer. It's certainly not MLS level. Of course, nobody would say that. Nobody would expect that. It's pretty basic, Rob. Everything is uncovered. There are 3 stands. There is an open end. It's 4,300 seats based on my understanding. Right? There's no bells and whistles. Yes, I do believe, by the way, that those renderings we showed you, that construction will be added at some point. So they've opened the stadium before they've completed every element of the stadium apron. But there are seats and people can sit in them and watch a soccer game around a field. That's what it is, right? It's if we judge it by, say, lower league football in England, it's pretty nice. They usually have some sort of covering in England, but this is that, right? This is just it stands
there you go.
around.
That's the picture right there. That's great.
And I'm sure on a nice night out in Greenville, or in Malden, it's nice, right? It's okay. It's not you wouldn't say it's a bad experience. By the way, what the hell is this? Why was Johnny Infantino on? He left a message or something for Greenville, and I found this on USL's subreddit, by the way.
That's got some serious Big Brother qualities to it there. The large bald man in the corner is wishing everyone well there, but I like it. I mean, I'm pro, more soccer stadia, the better, more soccer specific infrastructure in general, the better. And I'm more than okay with modesty in size. Like, I think that's part of what we need. We don't need lasers and high-tech AI rotating fields everywhere in the United States. Some modesty is okay, and we can build up from there. And so I really like it. I didn't see a ghostly goalkeeper on the field there, like in their first render. That's MK core right there, is the Greenville AI.
The Greenville, I didn't bring up that image this time.
Oh man, that's absolute central content for us.
These are from GE Vernova Park's Instagram account, and as you can see, like, that is an under construction part outside the stadium. That's where that rendered element is going to be. So that on the right there, this is my guess, is that that's where that's going, where you can see that they're building. Now, Rob pointed out, like, one thing about this is it's not aluminum stands, high school soccer field, high school football field. This actually is concrete poured, and therefore, has more of a stability to it, more of a permanence to it than just throwing up some stands around a field. So they are in stages building this. And look, if Greenville Triumph doesn't have a plan to be a USL Premier team, or even a USL Championship team, if they are happy where they are now, the promotion may come and then they'll have to deal with it. But if they are not aiming for that, and there's always, look, you saw those pictures, like the wide shots that I put up, you can actually see, like, there's probably room. There's room on the open end.
Oh yeah,
right, to add seats if they need to, so they can get to 5,000, 6,000, probably more than that, depending on how far back they want to go. And if they get promoted, then they will deal with that. But it's right for them, right? It's a fit for them, and they figured out a way to do it without sort of sacrificing a bunch of things in order to get it done, right? Like, I don't want to be cynical about that.
And I think that the Carolinas have are becoming one of the soccer towns or the regions of the country that shouldn't be slept on, is like becoming one of the hotbeds for soccer clubs, and soccer infrastructure in general. And kudos to them for getting that first game under their belts and getting a win to make some memories for those fans there. So tip of the hat to them.
Do you think they sprayed holy water over it and baptized it? Do you think they baptized it, Ruff?
Give it the Brazilian plane treatment? I sure hope so. I surely hope so. So MK Ultras, we are going to dot the map at the end of the show and then give a little bit of a bonus at the end as well. But excited for our next guest. Simon Evans from the Soccer Business is going to hop on. We're going to talk Soccer Wars and private investment next up here on Morning Kickaround. The next chapter of American soccer seems to be here, and it's a battle for the secondary and tertiary markets across the United States. Two competing companies, two competing ethos, USL and their promotion and relegation, MLS Net Pro, and seemingly their minor league approach. Each side has private equity backers. To kind of dig into the details and see where we're going here for the future of American soccer, we've got Simon Evans, co-founder of the Soccer Business. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good to be back.
Good to have you on the show again, Simon. Always something to get into on the Soccer Business side, and definitely everybody should go support the Soccer Business. Go find the website and then subscribe to the newsletter, which I do, and listen to the podcast and all those things. Having you on here, Simon, gives us a chance to kind of take a look at the lay of the land after the KKR announcement. I know there's been a little bit of a shift in leadership, and we may have talked to you about it already at the USL level. And you know, people are excited, I think, for maybe what comes in terms of the possible growth of the game. But specifically on MLS Net Pro and the people that you've talked to, what are they trying to achieve in maybe the near term with this money, this investment from KKR and Hometown Soccer Holdings?
That's right. Yeah. We had Tom Glick on, who's the CEO of Hometown Soccer Holdings, former executive with a number of clubs, including Charlotte, and worked at the City Football Group and so on. He came on and sort of explained what the strategy was, and basically he outlined that the idea of moving MLS reserve teams to other markets, probably quite adjacent markets from what he was suggesting, rebranding them in the way that we've seen with Huntsville in Alabama, which is Nashville's reserve team, of course. That is the strategy. That is what MLS Net Pro is doubling down on. And to do that, they needed an injection of private capital, I think, because probably a lot of clubs were looking at it and going, what, you want us to build another stadium, another front office, build out everything that's involved with a club, even at the third tier of the game. Private equity KKR, which is a massive private equity firm, by the way. It's, there's so many of these firms with similar sounding names that sometimes you can get, not always be clear about which ones are which. KKR are one of the biggest, and they're coming in to help that process. And they're a joint venture between MLS and KKR. It's called Hometown Soccer Holdings. And their aim is to try and move these teams out, create these new identities, these new clubs, and put them into those markets that currently don't have a professional soccer team. So that's their strategy. And obviously, it raises quite a number of questions about the lower division scene and the work that obviously USL is doing.
Yeah, it kind of seems like there's two different ethos, kind of a centralized farm league system for MLS Net Pro, if they're just trying to almost just rebrand their own second teams and move them out to different towns, versus the independent club and pro rel approach of USL. So you said KKR is like the biggest or amongst the biggest private equity firms. What about the private equity backing USL and pro rel?
Yeah, so USL has two companies that have come in: Black Tower, which have a significant company, and then Weatherford, which is a Tampa-based company. With a sports background, very much more focused on sports investments. I think both these private equity companies probably have the same goal. I mean, the biggest expense of building out all these clubs that we've been talked about in so many different markets, dotting the map as you do. The biggest expense is obviously stadiums. And stadiums allow private equity to come in and help with that financing and get equity in something that's concrete and physical beyond the intellectual property, the franchise rights, and all the rest of it. So that's what we're seeing. I mean, it's actually pretty much identical strategy from both of them. You're right. There's a difference in the league models. I think MLS Next Pro, you could compare it to minor league baseball in a lot of ways, what they're talking about there. And in fact, Tom Glick, during that conversation, was talking about following the careers of young players who you see play locally, which is exactly that minor league baseball thing, isn't it? And so, yeah, different strategies from the leagues, but pretty identical strategies from the private equity part of it.
Yeah, just to kind of get remedial here. And it was interesting because we talked to Bill Cornog, who is the new owner, the guy who stepped in to save Sporting Cascades, which is a USL League One team that is set to launch. And he is a guy who was at KKR for 20 years. Obviously, not on the other side, but investing in a club whose league is now backed by a different private equity setup. I asked him about, what private equity is looking to do here. And he weaved his way around the question a little bit, Simon, as you might expect. But he said, he just thinks that these firms see value in soccer. But I want to get down to the nitty gritty of what the value proposition is. And maybe you've already said it, right? Maybe it is essentially the real estate of the stadium. Is that where they see them getting their return? Because private equity doesn't invest to just do good for soccer. They invest to eventually take out a return.
I don't think it's just the stadium. I think that's a big, big influential part of it. But I think, they do believe that in these markets with no professional sports team, let alone professional soccer team, they can build something that will be a community asset and will be profitable.
And so profitable clubs, which is
question marks there.
That's in American soccer. Profitable clubs are not really a thing, Simon. But also, it is the actual equity and the value of the club that they see as their potential.
No, as I said, I think a huge part of it is the real estate. Yeah, and they're intertwined and they're connected. I mean, I suspect what we will see with facilities that are being built in MLS Next Pro is the same as what USL are talking about, which is build them as part of multi-use stadiums in retail developments, entertainment districts, and all those kind of things. That's what attracts the cities to put the money in, which is another big part of it, of course. That has to be happening. There has to be a buy-in from the cities in all these places, whether it be an investment in cash terms, or it be help with the tax and the benefits that we see clubs get, or if it just simply be supporting and allowing the thing to go ahead. So they need to do all of these things. But yes, these things can be profitable if you build those entertainment districts that we see everyone talking about. Now, we haven't seen a lot of them in practice yet.
No, we have not.
We have heard an awful lot of, this is going to be an amazing district. I think the one that's nearest to being realized and looks really concrete in terms of USL is the Oklahoma City one, right? Because there's a clear path there, the map for it's a complete urban redevelopment project, and the stadium is slap bang in the middle of that. It's not a situation where you go and you're buying a plot of land and then hoping you can build around it. But there are a lot of plans in place in a lot of different places. Homestead, Miami FC, they're planning to move down there. I've been a lot of talk about it being an academy project and so on, which it is. But around that is also a retail development, a housing development, and so on.
Let me ask you a question, Simon. Like, as a football man, like, obviously you're covering the business, and there is there's an approach to these stories that comes from that perspective.
Yeah.
But when you think about the people who might become fans of these teams, or maybe are in some cases because they exist. I have no idea what happens to Miami FC's fan base when they move to Homestead. I do not know what that looks like.
They don't have a fan base.
Well, they don't have one now, so why not reboot? I guess, and that's the thing. Like, where do I stop with my cynicism and accept that in order for American soccer to get to maybe where we want it to go, and again, our thing is dot the map, because I've taken to this idea that we just need to get clubs started, and then yes, maybe some of them will die, or yes, there may be some failures, but ultimately, what we just need to do is get these things started so they have even a chance of survival. Where do I let my cynicism sort of stop when it comes to why these things are happening, right? Again, private equity is involved. What is that Homestead project really about? Is it about the professional soccer club, or is it about everything around it? Because I want to leave my romantic ideas about what clubs can be sort of at the door, because I recognize we're probably not getting that here.
I think, if you look at it, the really cynical take is this is all a real estate business, right? That's the ultimate cynical take. And you do hear people say that, by the way. But I think if you think about a lot of these markets that we're talking about, these smaller markets, if the soccer club doesn't work, if the soccer club doesn't connect with the community, if they don't get attendances, what is the real estate for? What is that stadium going to do? They talk about having high school finals there as well. They're having lacrosse games, having other sports and so on. Those are all fine things. Your main tenant is going to be your men's and women's soccer teams, because quite often they're looking to bring two in, right? And
sure.
And if that doesn't work, I don't think that real estate play works. And that's good news for people like us, because they have an incentive there to make that club work. Now, if you look, if I can be a real nerd about lower division development in Europe, right?
Please.
If you look historically at a lot of countries, you will find that the clubs that exist now in places like Austria and Germany, most of them were formed out of mergers or clubs folding and all these things that we think are uniquely American problems, the instability in the lower divisions, have been there in most European countries as well. I mean, England really is an exception. And I know American soccer fans love to look at England and the pyramid and everything. But even there were some, but much less than in Europe. But you look at continental Europe, a lot of those clubs had to reform, merge. Just go to the Wikipedia of any Austrian club and see what it says.
Look, and look, I'm seeing the chat, right? So Riverside Grove, why does Jason have such a hang up about this? The motivation's irrelevant to me. Just dot the map. And again, like, I'm trying to get there. Like, this is me working through this sense that I don't want this to be just speculators and carpetbaggers and people trying to take advantage of soccer. We already have so much of that. The World Cup is essentially a giant exercise in trying to extract capital from soccer fans. And I want to believe that the people that are running the clubs, that are doing these things, really do have the game at heart. That's important to me. I don't think I'm unique in that. And again, I know it can be two things. It can be, we see a value proposition, and we care about the game of soccer.
Yeah, I think your ideal owner is someone from the local community who's made their money in that community and gives back to the community by creating a football club, and doesn't care that they lose a few million a year because he's there with his friends and his fans and he's proud of his local team. But there's a limited supply of those people, unfortunately, And, people like us would do it if we had millions, which we don't because of our foolish career choices. So we you look at it and you think, right, okay, this money's coming in. Take the next pro situation, minor league baseball model. A lot of people have a problem with that. But will it stay like that forever in soccer? Or are you going to have a situation where MLS actually becomes an MLS 2 at some point? There's all kinds of things could happen. Do you have some movement then? Do you have a cup competition? Do these teams, unlike minor league baseball teams, enter a national knockout cup competition like the US Open Cup? And then it's not the same as minor league baseball. So there's all sorts of things could happen. I just think, I take the kind of attitude that you're suggesting, Jason, and I just think, like, there's so many cities. You hear it. We all say it all the time. It's a big, big country. There's a lot of markets don't have a team. Let's put these teams in there. If people are willing to put money in, whether it be local investors or private equity, or ideally a combination of both, and let's see what happens.
I think I don't want to speak for Jason, but I think I saw some comments to the same tune that we want longevity, right? Like we don't necessarily want this to be built up and then the rug pulled out from under it once whatever.
And again, there's some PTSD.
Hit.
The's some PTSD involved here, right?
We don't want like the people to just get their check marks or they hit a certain level of valuations and just leave town and leave us kind of back at the beginning again. So I think, at least for me, that is. But I definitely have trepidation about the whole minor league model because I think that sports like baseball and hockey would have a lot more cultural inroads if the teams were battling for their own cities rather than kind of being a satellite for the big town up the road. But forgive me if you already referenced them, but are there any cities that you see being like specific USL cities directly taking on these MLS Next Pro cities, like the arms race? What do you see as like the battlegrounds that are coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to know, is it? So you just got to speculate on it. I mean, obviously we have Jacksonville already, right? Where we have USL and MLS Next Pro going head to head. There have been places where, in Cleveland, for example, where the group that bid for an NWSL team started up an MLS Next Pro team and did face a kind of challenge from USL going into that market and talking to the city and saying, no, we'll come here. We deserve your backing and so on. I think we will see things like that happen, unfortunately. I hope that when people in USL and MLS Next Pro tell me, hey, it's a big country, there's room for 2 leagues as well, we wish everybody the best, I hope they're being genuine and sincere when they're saying that, because I really think, if we're at a post-World Cup situation and we start getting these new teams being created and then the local fan base doesn't, sees 2 teams from 2 different leagues, we all know the background, but, your average new soccer fan is not going to know that, and that could be damaging. So I hope that the people are being sincere when they say that. And it is a big country. There's no reason why they should be clashing, but, we will see skirmishes, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, I mean, not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good in terms of building clubs also has to extend to our acceptance that, as much as we might want an integrated pyramid that ProRel and USL and MLS find some way to harmoniously create a structure like we see in England, probably not going to happen. They're totally, completely separate businesses, and the way that capitalism and antitrust law works, it's just not going to happen. I think we have to make our peace with that, even as we, and look, hopefully what you get in your town, wherever that is a team backed by somebody who really cares about the soccer and wants to put a proper product to represent the community on the field. Now, I'm curious in terms of a real world example that just came up with USL announcing that they have included 5 teams in their sanctioning documents for next year, one of them being a USL championship team in Atletico Dallas, which we've talked about, interesting choice to go into the Cotton Bowl and all that. This Ventura County group, Simon, my understanding, and I need to dig into this more, but my understanding is that is a group that previously was involved in MLS Next Pro or involved in the reserve team for the Galaxy, and now they've decided to go invest in USL. Is that just down to their individual case and circumstance? Does it say anything about maybe who's a little bit more attractive depending on your circumstance right now?
It's an interesting one, and I've been digging around and trying to get some insight into why Oak Sports Holding, the group that's been licensing that team from LA Galaxy, as it were, why they would switch to USL. And the only conclusion I can draw, and this is speculation on my part, is it comes after the Hometown Soccer Holdings announcement. And maybe the structure that they're developing doesn't quite work for those sort of third-party partners like that. I mean, we've seen similar arrangements in a couple of other markets that they're difficult to do for entrepreneurs coming into that to try and monetize and finance an MLS reserve team and make it work. Right. And then when somebody else comes in and says, well, we have a plan for doing that, and it's our money and it's our way of doing things, I can see why they might think, okay, well, let's go the independent USL route.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I can guess at, to be honest, Jason. Because
right? Sure. Yeah. Well, it's sort of a granular question. Do you know? Okay, when we talked about Grand Rapids and they're building a stadium, and we talked to who do we talk to, Rob? Darius Barnes. We talked to Darius Barnes, who's involved in that. And they obviously chose MLS Next Pro, and that may be a cost issue, startup cost in terms of expansion fees. I don't know how different that might be. Do you know if an independent team of the MLS Next Pro owns their IP? Because obviously in Major League Soccer, in a single entity setup, you don't own your IP. The league owns the IP, or the corporate entity owns the IP.
I believe they do. They're not part of being independent is they're not part of that MLS collective. So they don't get either the benefits or what you might consider the limitations of it either. So they're not part of, for example, Hometown Soccer Holdings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the upside for an independent team to go to MLS Next Pro?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think, first of all, the entry point is a little bit cheaper than USL, I think. Yeah, I haven't seen any firm numbers, but that's what multiple people have told me. I think they like being part of the MLS ecosystem as well.
Right.
I think even though they're not part of the ownership group and they don't get access to things like Soccer United marketing and so on, they do have a good relationship with MLS that allows them to tap expertise. It allows them to create pathways for their players. And I think they like the professionalism of MLS. A few people have mentioned that to me. It just works, that kind of attitude.
I definitely feel like, attaching yourself to MLS and what it's built, and you can say, hey, we're part of the same system that just opened up the Stadium of Miami or whatever it is. I imagine that does have some weight in a soccer world. But again, it's very indicative of the Soccer Wars idea, right? Because MLS is trying to kind of split the baby and say, we're big, we're corporate, we have all this power, we built this thing over 30 years. Oh, but also we're for hometowns. And we're going to be now with this effort, we're going to be locally responsive, because that's what USL's entire identity has been built around, for the most part, because they've had to, right? So I mean, not be, because they haven't had the kind of money that MLS has been able to throw around.
Right. I think for MLS, a lot of the motivation as well is it's been a real issue when you look at the commercial broadcasting reach and general level of fan interest in MLS. You see a massive difference between markets where MLS are present and where they aren't. Yeah. And I felt this myself living in Miami. For years, we didn't have a team. MLS felt something distant that was happening in DC, and then other markets opened up in the South. And then when you have a team, MLS is like present and feels real. And I think part of the motivation will be, if MLS and the brand is in these smaller places, it's in the Huntsvilles, Alabamas, and so on, then perhaps those fans there are more engaged with the league as a whole and help give them a footprint and a reason to have something to follow.
It's interesting because you wonder, I'm sorry, Rob, real quick. You wonder, and I know our viewers would say, well, yeah, but you're not actually part of MLS. And because there's no promotion, what is your real connect? But, there's a question whether the average American soccer fan, new or not, cares about any of that, I suppose.
There is, and I often come back to this, when you go to a game, when you get out there and go to stadiums, you're constantly reminded, whether it's USL or MLS, or big clubs or small clubs, that it's something fun to do on a Saturday night for a lot of people. It is. And not everyone obsesses about the things that we do and we love talking about and that are real issues. But will it be a factor? And I asked this of people about Huntsville. I said, do they care that it's Nashville's reserve team? And somebody said to me, half of them don't really even know it is. It's just a local team.
From what I've heard in Grand Rapids, they're advertising that it's part of MLS, but no one out there, for the most part, except for the hardcores, know that there's even a league called Next Pro, and it might just lead to a couple people with confused looks on opening night when Grand Rapids is playing Crew 2, and they're like, 2? Oh, that's weird, and then just kind of like move on and not worry about it. Maybe that's not even a big deal for a lot of stadium goers.
Yeah, and I think I've asked that as well. I've asked some of the independent clubs, is it harder to market and sell your games against teams with Crew 2 type names? And And the answer was no, really, because they get their crowds from people who want to come along and have a beer and a good night.
Yeah. So this. I mean, MLS for the first, I would say, at least 20 years, 15, 20 years of its existence was mostly focused on the same idea, like, get Billy and Jane and spend $100 or whatever it was to come out and watch soccer, right? And
Right.
it was, like you said, it was a nice night out on a weekend in the summer, which, by the way, with this calendar switch is going to be very interesting to see how much MLS loses of that market. But MLS has decided, actually, no, we want to be a serious soccer league. And even if we don't have a critical mass of hardcore fans, we're going to kind of act like we do, and that's going to be our positioning. And now they're just kind of passing the baton of the family friendly idea down the level to MLS Next Pro, whether that and again, moving your reserve team out of the principal market and moving it to a secondary market somewhat nearby allows you to kind of tap back into those family friendly ideas,
Right.
without having to without having to diminish your brand as the serious soccer club in Columbus or Philadelphia or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. I don't think they're looking to go into these markets and expecting to have like ultras created in small towns in Virginia or wherever. It's about that, and it is very similar, I think, to minor league baseball in that sense, that it's a place where players can be developed, and that's a big part of it. Tom Glick, in the interview I did with him, made a big thing about how player development is still a big part of this. In other words, it is still a reserve league. Even though it's going to look and sound like a lower division, it's still a reserve league, and they're developing young players. And those clubs, and one of the reasons why MLS clubs have been a little bit reluctant to go out there and spend the money and do this themselves before private equity came in, was on the coaching side of things at MLS clubs. A lot of people wanted to have their academy and young players nearby so they can keep tabs on their development and call them into the team when they want to, and so on. And that's why I think we'll see these clubs not move too far away. Yeah, I mean, I think back, and like all these things, we've kind of seen it before. I mean, Bethlehem Steel and the Philadelphia Union, remember that one? So it could well be things like that, where somebody is still pretty close to Philadelphia, can be called up to the first team, or the reserve team coach can call down the first team coach to come and look at a player very easily. Mm-hmm. So that's still a big part of it, the player development part as well.
Well, interesting stuff, Simon. The Soccer Wars truly upon us. A battle of monies, a battle of ethos.
Do we have 2 minutes, Rob? I know you're about to wrap. You're doing the host thing. You're doing a very good job. Do you have 2 minutes to ask Simon what the reported Apple numbers mean for Major League Soccer? Okay. Do you have a sense of that, Simon? They're saying 62% up now that they've moved out from MLS Season Pass to just Apple. What does that mean? People want to know.
Yeah, it's match viewers as well. Look, I mean, the big asterisk next to all of it is this is numbers that MLS have put up together with Apple. I think they have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders not to just make numbers up. So I don't think you can say it's made up. But obviously, MLS is going to find a formula that makes it sound as good as possible. But frankly, I'd be amazed if moving from MLS Season Pass, you have to pay us $10 a month, having already entered that Apple ecosystem, and then suddenly we just open it up, and if you're on Apple TV, you can watch the game. If there wasn't an increase. Right. Also, they have increased quite a lot on the linear side. So it's not just in the US and Canada with Fox and Bell. There's deals been done in South Korea. I think there is a deal or two in South America where people can watch these games much, much more easily. So the numbers they will be getting, that number is not an Apple TV number, yeah? That's not nearly 8 million people watching on Apple TV every weekend. It includes Fox. It includes Bell. It includes however many South Koreans are watching a son play for LAFC, which could be really high, So who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to have to get used to the days of Nielsen ratings coming out and us going, oh, that's good or that's bad, and knowing really what it is. That's over in the streaming era, isn't it? And that we still don't have it. It's not just MLS. I think across the board in the streaming world, we haven't settled on. I know Nielsen's working on this. We haven't really settled on an established, agreed way of measuring streams and views and exposure to games and so on. And start mixing in some of the social aspects as well, and it gets really confusing.
Yeah, when you're talking about impressions and all that, it gets pretty convoluted, and how they put those equations together is murky, but also quite convoluted as well. And I know some platforms count a view as at the time you clicked on it. So like maybe you timed out on a web page, or you clicked from one game, went back to another one. They're counting that possibly as part
I mean,
of
I'm
it.
sure you use YouTube Studio like I do, and you go in there and it's like, wow, we're doing really well. And then an hour later, they've removed 150 views you had and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on sometimes either.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I mean, it'd be wild if there was a 62% jump. That seems almost unprecedented. And it's probably, like you said, an uneven scattering of like normal numbers here, but just like a hyper number focused
I
in
will
on
say
maybe
this,
a Messi game or an LAFC game.
If you take yourself back to when MLS said, you know what, we're scrapping MLS season pass, we're not gonna try and claim that $10 anymore, and so on. If you'd have said that they do that and there isn't a significant increase in the amount of people watching MLS games, you'd think that's a really big problem for MLS. So I think what's happened is quite normal, really.
Normal, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Simon, thank you for spending so much time with us discussing the American soccer landscape. Much appreciated, especially from the business lens of you, of course, co-founder of the Soccer Business. We recommend you guys check out all of their content across the board, right? You guys put out a lot of stuff in different mediums.
Yeah, we do. We're doing a little bit more on YouTube as well, and the podcast. And the latest one out is about what on earth is going on with MLS and Canada, and why they must be terrified every time Don Garber crosses the border. But
yeah. He's going to Montreal today, right?
He was there yesterday. Yeah.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah. So no, a lot going on in the business of the game with that, and we're trying to do a little bit more international stuff and women's soccer as well. So yeah, appreciate the plug, and it's thesoccerbusiness.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there as well.
Well, Simon, thank you for spending so much time with us, and we'll check in with you sometime in the future. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Always a pleasure.
All right, we're going to catch our breath, come right back, and then add some new dots to the map. Those MK Ultras who just accepted some gifts, throw your location in the chat. We'll dot the map here coming up next here on Friday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Welcome on back here, Morning Kickaround. Really enjoyed that conversation with Simon Evans. Wanted to get into the nitty gritty of this new chapter of the Soccer Wars, the battle of the private equity firms, and the battle of ethos between the minor leagues and the lower leagues to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch this play out over the next couple of years. And, you know, again, like I don't want my hangups to project that I don't want to see an explosion of teams. Again, we chose Dot the Map as our hashtag for the show, as our idea around what we're looking at here for this very specific reason, because, you know, we've tried a bunch of different things in American soccer. And as I talk about a lot, the unifying theory of American soccer is that things are always done by league, from the league to the clubs in that direction, not the other way around. And we don't have a bunch of independent clubs who get together and go, hey, we should do a league. We do at the amateur level, maybe, but we don't so much at the professional level. And so this is going to be interesting to see, because there was no way around that dynamic, that paradigm. And now you have more money being put behind it. You have this sense that people see a soccer boom happening. But of course, what usually comes after a boom, Rob?
Bust.
So that's why a little trepidation, I think, is natural, a little concern. Well, we'll see.
And we've seen bad actors in the space, shall we say? And so
we've
is it
seen
just
bad
the
actors in the
biggest
space.
and baddest
Yes.
bad actor?
Yes. Okay. I see we got a couple of things that we need to get to in terms of administration on Morning Kickaround. I know we got to dot them out. We don't have any new dots. We don't have any new dots.
We have one in the chat here. We got Las Vegas, Nevada. We got Jezza Bolo.
Okay, Las Vegas, Nevada. You're gonna have to spell things for me because I don't know what you just said. What word did you just say?
Las Vegas, Nevada. So you spell it LAS.
No, not that part. Not that part. No.
So
I gotta pick
the user. Yeah, of course. The user handle is Jezza JE, excuse me, JEZA Bolo. Jezbolo.
Okay. All right.
I don't have my reading spectacles. It's hard for me to read these.
Jezebolo or Jezbolo?
Jeza.
All right. Jezebolo, you're right there, dotted on the premium outlets in Las Vegas North, because I have to pick a spot. So that's where you are dotted now. So you have to, your pronunciation is being corrected, I think, right?
I sure hope so, because I definitely didn't get it right on.
No, not that part. The state. Where is Las Vegas? I'm not saying I can do this right. Where's Las
Nevada?
Vegas? All right, now you're just doing a bit. All right, Andy is saying the A is like apple. Nevada, not Nevada. I think he's saying it's Nevada.
Nevada, harder A. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I do like to be locally appropriate.
That would be the local pronunciation from the people who speak English, right? I don't know if it comes out like that when you speak it in Spanish, but that's a whole thing. I don't want to get into that, because I'm imagining the word for Nevada comes from a Spanish origin. I don't know what it is. It's like Colorado, right? Or Colorado, as some people might say. That is a Spanish word, but nobody says it in a Spanish way if you're talking about the state, which is my favorite state, by the way. But continue. What are we doing? What else are we doing here?
All right, we have another one. Apparently, we've skipped over one. We have Luis Blanco in Austin, Texas. I thought I remember putting this one, but
he's in there. Luis is there, and that's not Luis. That's Luis. That says Luis, Rob. Okay. It's like Luis Diaz is out there playing for Bayern Munich right now. Luis Diaz.
I need my glasses. I lost them last weekend. I usually I learned my lesson, and I know I need glasses for this segment, but I've misplaced them trying to bring them out of the house, and I'm falling short here on my bill. That's actually part of what happened with the stadium name in Greensboro. I had it typed out right, but I couldn't read my screen.
Yeah, okay. We should probably do it. Go ahead.
I should get some new glasses, I think.
Sure, that too. All right. So if we don't have a lot of dots to throw up on our map, I do see
guy
there
Aaron,
is
one more before we move on. Aaron, who sent us an awesome picture of him wearing an MK Ultra t-shirt in front of a redwood tree. He wants his clubs edited.
Okay.
He's one of our
Aaron Pimentel. I don't know. Where's the stress on that, Aaron? Is that who you're talking about? Yeah, you're talking about Aaron. He's
you got it. Pimentel.
Where is he? That's Eric. He's up here in Eureka, right? Is that right?
In the Sacramento area.
He's in Eureka. He's in Eureka. He's not in Sacramento, which is way down here, Rob. See down there? That's where Sacramento. That's where I was born. That's where Jason Davis came into the world, right there, Sacramento, California.
On the shores of Lake Tahoe, right?
Eureka's way up here. And the West is a big place, so it probably takes like 4 hours to get from, probably not, but it takes a while to get from Sacramento to Eureka. All right, what am I editing for Aaron?
Oh, you're adding Sacramento Republic, SF City. Is that on there?
Republic wrong. SF City's on there, yeah.
And then Aston Villa.
We got it.
I guess we covered that, but we're getting corrected on the Luis.
Oh, Luis is missing Barcelona.
He's missing Barcelona.
All right. You're a Barca fan. Fine, whatever, Luis.
Something we didn't even touch on. I mean, there's a lot of situations that are rolling into it, but no Real Madrid players in a Spanish team is kind of wild. That
we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah. By the way, you have like 3 other shows, so you probably talked about it elsewhere.
Luis is also a Manchester City fan and the Barcelona fan. What?
Is that allowed? He likes winning. He likes the winning.
Apparently, he likes winning. Apparently, he does like winning. Not this year for City, though.
I'm curious I'm curious if City is going to bounce back here.
People are asking for Ant is asking for a structure around the World Cup correspondence situation. Rob, we don't have a structure in mind, right? A framework on the reports. And he says deadline. Now, this is an ongoing thing. Now, if you want to give us a preview of your group, you're more than welcome to do that. And maybe we'll run those next week ahead of the tournament kicking off on Thursday. So if you want to get us something, maybe Wednesday is the day, right? So today's Friday. Monday is after the weekend. Nobody wants to have to deliver something on Monday. Maybe by Wednesday, give us a little thumbnail sketch on your group Provide us some unique ultra style information. Tell us about, I don't know, pick a favorite lower division club. Find your favorite badge. That's a good way. Your favorite badge from that country is a good way to do it. What else?
So hopefully, John, who got 2 groups as a correspondent, he put in an outline of what he's going to put in his,
Perfect.
and hopefully I can bring in.
Perfect.
It's in the World Cup 2026 thread. If you're an MK Ultra on the Discord, I'm going to try to bring that picture in. But he's got the full country name, national symbols, national team, what's going on with the domestic soccer league. And some fun facts and randomness. So we like fun facts and randomness, and that seems like a very good list if you're kind of like trying to figure out what you want to do. It could just be a quick little thing. I know Luke Zagorski said he's going to go all in on his preview, and so that's the outline what John has put up there. And if you are looking for a little bit of guidance here, more than we've already provided, I think this is a pretty good place to start off, at least get you going on it. And Wednesday, and we do a little previewing. And in general, the general idea is there's going to be so many group match days, 12 different groups, obviously having match days through the group section of the tournament. And if we had some notes or something to provide in a interactive way between us and the members who are, the lifeblood of this channel, it'd be a great way for us to mix our domestic approach to the world's biggest tournament happening here. And a lot of different other outlets and channels are going to be doing the tactical analysis and like the review of each game. But I think with the games coming so thick and fast, it's going to be pretty hard to watch them all to start off with, but now allow enough space between games as well. Even if there's an absolute banger of a game, how long are you really going to get to savor that or hold on to that game until the next one starts and you move on?
Yeah. I mean, there's some of that. I'm looking. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm trying to make a post. I'm going to put John's framework, all of this, in a post on the YouTube channel. Which, by the way, I just dropped the new Discord link. So if you're a new member or you're not in the Discord, go click the link, join the Discord. I saw Ant said he needs to use the Discord more. Do not be overwhelmed by the Discord. Pick one channel. Make that your channel. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it's fairly intuitive.
Fairly as long as you just mute the spam bot, you're just fine. But I was going to say thank you to Mr. Bob for gifting memberships. And if you'd like to become a member, you get your dot added to the map. You get priority on-screen commenting during live shows, and then access to the Discord server, which we've really got a great community building over there with some great conversations talking about local stuff. And I'm always putting clips from my my goal calls for OCFC and people talking about all their teams in their backyards, all the way up to the national team, everything in between. And even the kit culture thread has become one of my favorites between MK Ultras exchanging kits, folks' teams releasing new ones, and then just people finding interesting kits across the internet. We've got quite a few kit collectors in the pool of MK Ultras. So there really is a great spot and a great benefit to your membership is access there. And what was I going to say as well? Amongst the benefits there, and you can even if you can't share a few bucks a month for that, you can like and share the channel and the group to help us out. But I was going to say the other benefit of, or the other thing, if you become an ultra, you're a new ultra, you just got the membership just now during the show. When you start out in the Discord, you put your dot the map location in that thread. And then if you're feeling so bold, want to introduce yourself, we've really gotten to learn folks, their backgrounds in soccer through the introductions thread, because there's brand new fans and then those with decades in the game.
We need to do this.
We should have a new stadium clanger before we leave for Greenville. We should have Greenville clanked.
We should have clanged for. Do you want to clang right now for Greenville, or is it too late to clang for Greenville? You want me to clang? You want me to do the honors to clang for? Okay, wait.
New stadium clang.
So what do we decide? when a team gets announced, we do have some expansion teams coming next year. We didn't really clang the clanger. I mean we need to see something a little more concrete from some of those, I guess. I mean some of them like Sporting Cascades. I think we probably clanged our clanger for that, Atletico Dallas. But obviously stadiums are a clang the clanger situation, as is any new member here on Morning Kickaround. All the ultras, you get a clang for your membership. And yeah, if you're new to the show, there's lore there. That's what Rob said is a way to celebrate new things happening in American soccer is the clanger. We even got a T-shirt, Rob. Is that available anywhere? Where can people find the clanger T-shirt?
On fourthwall.com. Look up a Morning Kickaround on fourthwall.com to access the MK collection, and that's live up there, as well as the MK kit, the Morning Kickaround Ultra kit. You can see behind me. It says first edition here, and the second rollout, the second production run of the MK kits is in the works, and hopefully we see that in the postage here soon.
Yeah, I hopefully going to get my hands on those. I know Tom is in need of one. There are lots of people out there who need their shirts and have ordered their shirts. So hopefully we will get those together very soon.
All right, we got anything else before we get out of here for the weekend? Are we going bonus, yay or nay? Did we hit the marks to do a bonus?
Today, I can't do a bonus today. I got to pick my wife up from the airport, unfortunately. So,
all right.
You got a graduation party to do on Sunday and a graduation to attend on Monday. By the way, just realized. Yeah, I could do a show on Monday. I can do a show on Monday.
So actually, I'm glad we're talking through show availability here on the live program. But Detroit City FC is doing. I've been told they're doing an event for the Discovery Center for Alumnify Field for DCFC's stadium that is building. So there's some sort of event on Monday there. I don't know if it's an evening or a morning affair, but I would like to attend that. So we'll have to stay in communications on our Monday availability. But Wednesday, I think, is when we're really going to deep into the pool of World Cup coverage with the correspondence reports and then just like literally being on the doorstep of it. And if you were an ultra and you didn't see where you were drawn or what group you are, and it's interesting to get the list of what groups are picked first. But Ken Garner, first pick of the draft, picked Group H, which I thought was an interesting selection off the bat. And everyone a little gun shy about picking the United States group, Group D. But Matt D got Group J, Jose got Group A, Seneca got Group G, Ken Metaphone Group F, Luke Zagorski Group C. We'll see what he comes up with. Craig Guerin, Group B, John Hunt got K, Wes Henderson down in Florida got Group I. Then John's second group is E. Then Ant, actually heads up, Ant, you've been in an Discord voice chat for the last 12 hours and 11 minutes. I don't know if you were intentionally in there, Ant, because we've all done it. We've all accidentally done that. And we probably should do some of those through the World Cup. We did one MK hangout on the Discord, which was fun. So I think we should probably utilize that a little bit more in informal moments throughout this crazy busy World Cup. I think that would be a good way to go. And then rounding it off, Jason and Dan are splitting the responsibilities of USA, taking on Group D to round off the correspondence draft on Wednesday. So we'll keep it updated. Both we'll post on the channel and in the Discord on our Monday show availability. But diving deep into the World Cup coverage pool on Wednesday. But stay with us. We'll still cover the domestic game and talk about all of the dot the map storylines throughout the summer. So don't fret. So until next week, until we are back again, everyone be brave, stay safe, and enjoy your soccer. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, I have to hit it because Jenny left. Guys, you're getting a little extra.